This is one of the best conversations I've ever had about how to use social media effectively as a thought leader. Listen into my conversation with Heath on this episode of the Speaking Your Brand podcast. More and more women are making an impact by starting businesses, running for office, and speaking up for what matters. With my background as a TV political analyst, entrepreneur, and speaker, I interview and coach purpose-driven women to shape their brands, grow their companies, and become recognized as influencers in their field. This is Speaking Your Brand, your place to learn how to persuasively communicate your message to your audience. Hi, and welcome to the Speaking Your Brand podcast. I'm your host, Carol Cox. Thank you so much for joining me today. I don't know about you, but I always wonder, how can I make my social media content more effective, more interesting for the people who are reading it or watching it, and just feel better about putting it out there so it seems like people are actually consuming it and it's not just crickets. We've been doing a series on the podcast called The Medium is the Message, and this episode is a continuation of that series. We've talked about podcasting, public speaking, video, TV, and email, all as mediums, and what makes them unique and how we can use them most effectively. In this episode, we're talking all about social media, specifically LinkedIn. My guest is Tyrona Heath, who is Director Market Engagement at the B2b Institute at LinkedIn. Yes, she works at LinkedIn. So you're going to get the inside scoop of the big picture of how to make the most of LinkedIn. We're going to get past the superficial tactics of what does the algorithm want and what time of day should you post and all of those things, and really dig into what makes social media and LinkedIn in particular unique, how to showcase your body of work as a thought leader, and what your audience wants from you. Ty and I talk about the ways social media and LinkedIn especially can be used for different goals: brand awareness, lead generation, thought leadership, what entrepreneurs often get wrong about using social media effectively, what's working well on LinkedIn right now, how LinkedIn content is similar and different from what other social media platforms prioritize. And then towards the end of our conversation, Ty and I, this is the part where I go back and listen to this, and I'm going to go back and listen to this again. What to really think about when you sit down to create content to share on social media. I think you'll find that this is an episode that you'll listen to more than once, and also one to share with a friend. If you're ready to start putting yourself out there as a thought leader, but you're not exactly sure what that looks like or what that means, I invite you to apply to join our Thought Leader Academy. As a thought leader, you have a body of work that you're creating that centers around your expertise, your big idea, and your personal journey, your personal stories. In order to do that, though, you really need to be very clear about your idea and your message and your story that's going to resonate with your audience. The clients that we work with, they come to us because they have lots and lots of ideas swirling around in their head, and they're not sure which ones are the best. They also feel like they're too close to their topic. They can't see the forest for the trees because they know it so well. They can't tell, what is my audience going to relate to the most? What level of information do they need? And so this is what we start with when you come through our Thought Leader Academy, is identifying and validating your ideas. So we work with you both in our group Zoom calls and one-on-one to get a lot of clarity and focus around your idea and your story, so you have a strong foundation for your thought leadership that then translates into your signature talks, into your public speaking, whether virtual or in person, and into all of the content that you're creating, including on social media. If this sounds interesting to you, I invite you to get all of the details and submit your application today by going to speakingyourbrand.com/academy. Again, that's speakingyourbrand.com/academy. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. I am so glad that you're here. At Speaking Your Brand, we help women entrepreneurs and professionals create their signature talks and build their thought leadership platforms. We know that it's through women's voices and stories that we challenge the status quo and change existing systems to make them better for more people. Again, if you would like to learn more about the work that we do, including our Thought Leader Academy, go to speakingyourbrand.com. Now, let's get on with the show. Welcome to the Speaking Your Brand podcast, Ty.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I heard about you through Elaine Pfluger's podcast called Support is Sexy. I'm a big fan of Elaine's, and I was actually looking for someone to bring on this podcast to talk a little bit about social media during the series that we're doing called The Medium is the Message. I heard you on her podcast and I said, oh, Ty is the person that I want to have on because you have a long background working directly at LinkedIn at the company. Currently, you're director market engagement at the B2b Institute at LinkedIn. And so I feel like I have like an insider view here of someone who actually works at LinkedIn. So welcome. And can you tell us a little bit about the B2b Institute, what that is and what you do there?
The B2b Institute is a think tank, and our think tank works with leading practitioners in marketing and also academics to investigate how marketers can create more value. So I get to nerd out with research. I get to look for insights that are going to help make marketers make more progress. And, I have a special place in my heart for entrepreneurs as well, which is part of the reason why I was so excited to join Elaine's podcast and to speak with everyone here as well, because there's so much, even though it's for marketers, we're all marketers as we run our businesses.
Absolutely. Well, we as entrepreneurs, we wear many hats, and definitely marketing and content creation is one of the main ones that we wear. And so this series that we're doing called The Medium is the Message is to really dig into what do these different mediums, these different platforms and channels want. Every platform is different, whether it's standing in front of a group of people on a stage, public speaking, or creating a YouTube video, or doing a podcast conversation, or writing a book, or sending an email to your list. They're all different mediums and they all want different things. And I know I'm as guilty as anyone else where I copy paste, right, from thing to thing because it's the easiest thing to do, but I know it's not the most effective because we as human beings show up in these different places wanting different things and expecting different things. So I really want to talk today with you, Ty, about LinkedIn and just about social media, kind of like philosophically, like, what does social media want from us? What does LinkedIn want from us as marketers and content creators? But then on the other side, as those of us scrolling through our news feed, what is it that we want? So I guess like big picture, Ty, what are you seeing now that's working well on the LinkedIn platform for engagement?
I think it's important to take a step back. And since we're talking philosophically, I hope you'll indulge me for a second, because, this really is a time of fundamental transformation in the way that we're all working. And so, we think about the pandemic that we're all still living through, social justice reckoning in terms of conversation, our need to figure out how to work remotely. We're not able to see our customers in the same way that we were before, live and direct. And so we need this. Social media and these tech platforms in general have taken on a new meaning for businesses. And in particular, the way that we work is fundamentally shifted, which is why I think it's so important for everyone to kind of think about not only all of the social media platforms, but LinkedIn in particular, because it has that professional context to the way that we approach work. And it is one of the platforms where you can reach, what I call three distinct audiences, whether you're talking about customers, whether you're talking about your executives within your business, but also current and future employees, as well as investors and shareholders. So in just kind of thinking about in this new space we're operating in, how do we connect with different audiences? I think LinkedIn there's a distinction there in terms of how to connect in this new environment. And then, even thinking beyond that to the expectations that people now have for brands, as we think about the conversation happening around social justice, being conscious consumers, climate change, and being mindful about the impact that businesses have on the world. There's an expectation that as leaders, we, do what we can within the communities in which we're operating and be responsible for our impact and actually cater to all of those different stakeholders. And then, we're also in a space right now where our buyers are evolving. The expectations, again, they're different. The way we interact, the ease of use in terms of the applications are different. And people expect for businesses to have alignment with their own values. And so how do you demonstrate all of that? So that's where social media can be incredibly helpful to take a stand as a brand and to really think about like, what is your presence and how do you reach those different audiences to communicate the message? So I just wanted to set that context because I think it's so important. But specifically to your question about LinkedIn. So LinkedIn now has over 750 million professionals. So massive environment. And then you think about the people that are making decisions, like what's happening on LinkedIn. People are there to learn, there to network, there to get guidance, there to find jobs. So there's there. As I talk about the professional context, I think it's important to expand that out and to recognize that 4 out of 5 people on LinkedIn do drive business decisions in some way, shape, or form. So there's a opportunity to influence. And then right now, it is the number one platform for lead generation, and it is one of the most trusted platforms on which to share thought leadership that builds your credibility and your brand. Thinking about LinkedIn against the professional networks, social networks rather, it's important. There's a use case for each one. But as you think about LinkedIn, it's so important to have that lens of what is the professional context, not that you should only talk about business, because we bring all of the things going on in our lives into the business environment, whether you're talking about politics or the social issues of the day, all of those things influence business, but you want to have that professional context as you're talking about those things on the LinkedIn platform. And you want to also then think about all the different audiences and stakeholders you're reaching on the LinkedIn platform. So I think I'll pause there, but I think that's a distinction for people to recognize and the kind of the difference between LinkedIn and some of the other social platforms.
Ty, these are excellent points. And thank you so much for pointing out that LinkedIn, having had its genesis as a kind of resume job search site, right? And it has maintained this professional atmosphere, which I appreciate. Again, that's why I like LinkedIn as my favorite social media platform. And what's interesting is I think about, when I go on Instagram and I'm scrolling through Instagram, and I don't use TikTok. Maybe just I'm Gen X. I don't know. I know there's Gen Xers on there, but it's just not my thing. But people use those like Instagram and TikTok for entertainment. They're going on there for like that dopamine hit, funny cat videos, funny kid videos, funny dance videos, right? They're going on there for those minute-long videos for entertainment to pass the time because they're bored. Whereas I know for myself, and I imagine for many other users on LinkedIn, when you go on LinkedIn, you're going there for something different. Of course, there's always yes, you want to be entertained in the sense you want content that's interesting, but you're probably not going on LinkedIn looking for a minute-long dance video or a cute cat video.
That's right. So that is a distinction. And again, there's a place for all of the things, because we're all human. And we also need to be human on the LinkedIn platform. People are still human when they show up, right? But it's really about thinking about that people are there to invest time. It's like watering your professional garden, thinking about your future. What are you building? What value do you want to create? Who do you want to collaborate with? What do you aspire to do? LinkedIn is more of a place to have that type of a conversation, but not to lose the humanity as you're doing it. Of course, people are human. But yes, everything you said is right on. And, I think that's why it's so important to think about LinkedIn as the conversation before the conversation is how I like to put it. Because when you think about building a brand or even serving your business, it does start with you. Human beings trust other human beings, want to deal with other people. And many times when people are making a decision to work with you, they of course look at your product, what you're able to deliver, but they're also looking to you. Can I trust you? Who are you? What do you stand for? And so LinkedIn is an opportunity to have a conversation before the conversation. So to the point you just made, the first thing to think about is, can I and have I invested in my LinkedIn profile? Because before people meet you, or when they're thinking about working with you, or they're going to buy something from you, one of the first things they might do is search for your name. And more often than not, when you have a LinkedIn profile, it does tend to be one of those first results. And then the question then becomes, what is it that they're going to learn about you? What's the story? What are you passionate about? What are you committed to? What do you aspire to create? All of those things. What can people learn about the success you've had with other customers? What challenges did you go through? What do you already understand about the space you operate in? Your profile, and also the articles, the long form posts attached to your profile, offer an opportunity for someone to kind of get a sense of who you are and your credibility before they meet you.
And Ty, thinking about thought leadership, because I know that's a lot of the work that you do at the B2b Institute with the marketers and the research that you're doing. And obviously here at Speaking Your Brand, that's what we help our clients do, is to craft their thought leadership message and their signature talk and then put themselves out there as thought leaders. Thinking about the platform of LinkedIn, what are some ways that you have seen, either you have done yourself or you have seen, that content creators, entrepreneurs have done a good job expressing their thought leadership on LinkedIn?
Everyone has a space that they're passionate about and they're credible in. And I think it's important for you to think about first, well, what is the question that your customers have, or what is it that you're curious about that can deliver value back to the audiences you serve? True thought leadership is really about that investigation and new insights that allow people to act. And I think it should probably be called action leadership rather than thought leadership, because that's the point. You're delivering insights for people to act. And I think at the core of it, as an entrepreneur, one of the things to think about is like, what is a thought piece, or what is a particular topic that you can invest deeply in for a extended period of time. So one formula that I think works pretty well is to think about, how you might invest in one particular area or content franchise year over year, but update it based on your findings in a way that contributes value to the business. So let's say you are a brand consultant working in the space of brand transformation. Every single year you have a thought piece or an action piece on brand transformation. So brand transformation 2021, 2022. And then you're thinking about this body of work that you're building over time that you can become known for. And on LinkedIn, you can then talk about that from several different angles, from the angle of, what is the thing that people need to understand in terms of the trends? Where is this going? You can start to tell stories that help people get more connected to the value that your team can create by sharing internal stories of working through those things. What are the thoughts of your executives you have, or even yourself if you have a small business out in the world? What's going on within your business that you're sorting through? And then you can talk about the product. And I don't mean product in terms of like let me sell this product sort of way, but more towards the angle of like, did your solution help deliver for your customers? So telling the stories of your customers. So with those three angles, using, of course, the hashtags and things like that. And then it's not just about you and your business, but who else is doing complementary work in the space. So now as a action leader, you're building an ecosystem of value by connecting to other influential people on LinkedIn who are also speaking on the topic. And you're just creating like this web of value. And it's not so much about just kind of like the likes. It's about the conversation you're driving that leads to additional insights, additional people being plugged into this like value ecosystem you've created. And that's one half of the story, because I think, on the organic side, there's plenty of things to do on LinkedIn, and we can get into that a little bit more, whether it's like a post or an article or, doing a LinkedIn Live or hosting an event. But there's also the paid side of the story. One of those things where it's like, if a tree falls in the forest, like I can't remember the saying, but like the point is like people have to be aware And so there's also an opportunity for you to invest paid to amplify that content on LinkedIn as well. And so what we advise is like, if you have a piece that's performing super well organically, why not put some paid behind it? Why not amplify it by investing in sponsored content, sponsored messaging, text ads? We have dynamic ads. So there are a couple of different ways to sort of, with that professional audience that you can define, if you have a picture of like what that stakeholder looks like, and then you can target the entire category to make sure you're reaching not just buyers of today, but buyers of tomorrow. So all of what I've just said is kind of a condensed sort of strategy for thinking about this off of this one piece of action leadership that you develop year over year, how you can organically and also on the paid side start to build a brand that is, builds and builds and builds over time, like a train picking up speed.
Ty, so you said so many good things that I just jotted down. Let me
break it down.
No, it's good. I love like thought leadership is really, I like to think of thought leadership as like you have an idea in your head and then you need to like connect with your heart, like the emotional aspect of your idea. And then you need to like articulate it out loud. So, right. So it's like all of those things end up getting connected.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about the paid aspects and then let's jump back into the organic part of it there. So,
okay.
So I know that on Instagram, you can boost a post, you do an organic post and then you can pay, and same thing on Facebook to boost it. I did not realize on LinkedIn that you can boost a post. I thought you had to like create an ad. I see sponsored ads in my feed that you had to go create a separate ad for it. So tell me more.
Yeah. So you can take a post and you can take you can go either way. You can take a post that's performing well and you can translate it into an ad, or you can say, this is my, central thought leadership piece, and you can invest in it that way. So, overall, what you want to think about is, what's the story that I'm trying to tell here? There are a lot of different ways to tell it, and also depends on your audience as well. I think building one's brand, like sometimes we think we know who our buyer is, and we don't always know, and we can't predict the future. So as you're thinking about that piece of content and that you want to amplify, I think it's important to think about, how, like broadly, what is the biggest category I can possibly talk to? And also within the realm of, of course, thinking about the budget that you have, because that investment of amplification and brand building is probably one of the most important things you can do for the long-term value of your business. Because if people don't know who you are, and they don't recognize your brand, then there's not really a shot. As you're thinking about the content and boosting that you're using your brand distinctively, that you're thinking about, how am I creating something memorable, the feeling and the emotion? I think it definitely starts with thinking about, well, what's already has resonated? Why did it resonate? And is my logo on the thing? Is it distinctive? Is it recognizable? All of these things will make sure that you're more likely to be successful as you choose the content you're going to amplify. The most recognizable type of content that people tend to focus on for LinkedIn is what we call the sponsored content. And those are native ads that appear in the feed. So you can see those like pictures. There's also messaging, which is like LinkedIn, list LinkedIn messages like in mail. So you can target that way, text ads, which you may see across the top, and then dynamic ads. You may have seen those ones where it has like a picture of someone's face or their name. It's like, come work for us. You've probably seen those posts. So these are all different ways to think about it. I failed to mention this, but this is also important. Create your home base on LinkedIn. One of the things you should do is think about do you have a company page on LinkedIn? Because that is a central place for you to kind of communicate and also build a following from which you can start to do things more on the organic side, whether your goal is to host LinkedIn Lives or host events off the back of your page. So you want to think about like centrally, like what is your home base? Are you, as an individual, the brand who also has a company page? It's sort of like brand architecture thinking. Let me pause there.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So thank you for the overview of the paid aspects. I will definitely be checking that out in more depth. So let's go back a little bit on the organic side. So on LinkedIn, I do text posts, just like write something. Sometimes I'll have a graphic or a photo with it. Sometimes I'll take, say, like a minute or two clip of what we're doing right here, a podcast conversation, and I'll post that video on LinkedIn. We've done LinkedIn Lives every other Monday since May. And those have been a lot of fun, trying different things. And it seems to be that all of those, they tend to hit about the same numbers, like same numbers of views, about the same number of comments, engagement, and so on. And obviously, every person is different. Every person reading or watching is different. And I think about Instagram announced a few months ago that they are, quote, no longer a photo sharing platform, that they're basically doubling down on video because, of course, they want to compete with TikTok and all the eyeballs that are going to TikTok. Is LinkedIn finding the same thing where LinkedIn wants to encourage more video uploads and live streaming, or is LinkedIn happy with text and articles?
I think video is hot across all platforms, to be honest. It's just one of the ways that people want to engage today, that people consume content today. So I think regardless of the platform, getting your video skills up is, I think, extremely important. Luckily, we don't need to have like a ton of like fancy equipment to shoot videos. If you're just getting started on LinkedIn, I think, again, like as long as you're thinking about the professional context, you can maybe shoot, doesn't have to be a feature film. Just like the other channels, you do want to keep it on the shorter side, like 3 minutes or so. Anytime you're shooting anything, you want to make it mobile friendly. You want to think about using subtitles and graphics, but overall, video continues to grow across the platform. You can repurpose the video over to other platforms as well. And, just think about every opportunity where you're out in the world or even home as you're thinking through an idea as an opportunity for content capture. I love what you said about taking clips from things, because I think one of the challenges for large and small businesses is we are all short on time, and we need a way to create some leverage in order to get content. So as you think about video, whether you're doing native video, LinkedIn broadcasting, or anything like that, you do want to think about, how do I chunk my content into clips? There's another tip I love called mega batching. You can shoot, like maybe choose a day of the week where you're just going to shoot a bunch of different video. It requires some preparation in terms of what you're going to talk about. Maybe have a couple different outfit changes. And
yes, right.
You probably know about that. We shouldn't reveal all the secrets here, but just a pro tip, because video is so important. It is one of those things where I think today there's no getting around it. What else is like? So I would say, similarities across platforms. Talk about topics that matter to you, things that inspire you. That's going to work no matter where you're going. Across platforms, shorter form, inspirational, to the point visual. That being said, you should test things. We found long form substantive pieces, for example, LinkedIn articles. People do love to dive into those as well. Anywhere between 800 and 2,000 words on the long form articles we've found to perform very well on LinkedIn, as long as there's that substance there. So, I mean, I don't feel like you have to always keep it short. Like if you're doing a thought piece, do it, but test it. And then I would say something that's across all channels is this desire for authenticity, this desire to have you show up as you. When you think about the people that you follow, whether it's podcasts you listen to or YouTube or whatever social channel, you feel like you know that person, even though you've never met them before. And the reason is because they keep it real. They give a little bit of themselves, are vulnerable. That can be scary. And I think I have to say this because I feel like on LinkedIn, maybe it's heightened a little bit even more because it's like your entire like professional network, like all your coworkers and like like that can be, it takes courage to put yourself out there and to add a little bit of yourself or vulnerability or to like give your opinion to the thing. I mean, it's scary on any platform, but I think for LinkedIn, it's a huge opportunity because these are people that are close to you that work with you for you to deliver value as long as you kind of take yourself out of it and think about I'm doing this in service of and remember why people listen to and follow people because they feel something. There's something behind it. So I think that goes for any platform, but on LinkedIn in particular, where like it's like you're out to build your business, build your network, influence. There's a huge opportunity if you can just get past that hurdle of like, this is scary for me to like share organic short form posts and write articles about my opinion on things and post videos. There's a huge opportunity. I think whereas other channels are sort of inundated, maybe at this point, I think LinkedIn is still, I think it's still early-ish for folks. Do you agree?
Oh, yes. Yes. These are excellent points, Ty. And I feel like to your point, as LinkedIn being a professional environment where we know we have current colleagues, prior bosses, maybe, right? Future bosses, like future clients, like,
Yeah.
right? It's like, whereas like on Instagram or Facebook, like you kind of feel like you maybe have some work colleagues, but it feels a little bit more siloed. But I will say that, and to your point about authenticity and vulnerability, I have seen this myself when I share content, whether it's on the podcast or on a social media platform like LinkedIn or on our email newsletter list, that the response that I get from particularly women who read it and they feel that they're not alone.
Yeah.
They feel like they're validated and they feel like I'm not perfect. And I would never, I mean, right.
Ooh.
But we have these like personal brands, right? These professional facades because we are professional women, but Lord knows none of us are perfect. And we forget, like we know that in our own heads, but we forget to share those things with our audiences.
Absolutely. They want to see how things are made, what you're thinking. And this doesn't mean like you're dumping all your personal stuff all over LinkedIn. Keep the professional context, but bring the humanity to it. Talk about something that didn't go so well, but what did you learn for it? What do you aspire? What did you stumble over? What did you overcome? Or I've seen people post, that they're struggling now and get incredible support on LinkedIn. And it's not just like, here's how we won, but people want to also have some insight into the journey and the people behind what got delivered. So there's huge opportunity there. I'm starting to see a little bit more of that on LinkedIn, and I love it.
Ty, all right. So I definitely going to go back to my drawing board, think about a lot of my LinkedIn content. And because it is, again, like it is just like we get so kind of used to like the copy paste and just, I'm just going to put my marketing message out there or my sales message out there. And we know it doesn't work as well. But it can be hard to dig deep and to write a more revealing post and to feel those vulnerability hangovers that may come afterwards. And I always tell our clients that yes, you may have a vulnerability hangover. Remind yourself that is very much possible, but know that to your point, Ty, you're doing it in service of the people who will be reading it or watching it or listening to it.
Right. The other advice I would give is, just be a little bit more human and real, and we don't have to be as like super crystal polished all the time because it's a professional social network. But think about what is the point of this post? Why am I posting this? What is the reason? If the several layers down about why you're doing what you're doing and reveal that. Not just like, this will deliver value to the customer, but just like our mission is literally to like, how do you just have people feel something, people to remember something. So actually there are 3 questions. I used to support executives in defining how they share about their personal brand on LinkedIn and help executives with their LinkedIn profiles. And there were 3 questions that I would always ask them. And they are, what are you passionate about? What are you committed to? And 3, what do you aspire to create? And it sparked something. A lot of the reaction I got was like, wow, I hadn't really dug that deep. Like it seems like simple questions, but when you sit down and actually start writing the answer to those questions, it forces you to think. And, I would encourage, after you sort of sit with those questions, to put those in the description, the answers to those questions in your description area of your LinkedIn profile. Like if you have your job title, for example, people are often like, I don't really know what that means. Like, what is it's just kind of generic. But if you then introduce yourself as like, hi, I am passionate about, I aspire to, I'm committed to, that's what people remember. And then what you'll find is that they start to introduce you by what you said. And that's what you want people to pick up when you share. And then also within your posts, as you like talk about what you're doing, like that's what like we often forget when we're thinking like business, that it's like, no, humans are also in the mix here. And the way you build your brand and long-term value is by having your brand be easy to mind and easy to find in as many buying situations as possible, which means remembering you and remembering what you do and why you do it.
Ty. Oh, that is beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing those 3 questions. And it reminds me that I am working right now on a book proposal to shop for an agent and then eventually a publisher early next year. And so the next episode on this podcast will be all about the medium of books. And so for those of you listening, make sure to tune into that one. But it gives me the idea of sharing some of my book ideas on LinkedIn, because it is very much related to our mission about amplifying and champion diverse women's voices, and that the actual physical act of public speaking is what will, I believe, lead to more gender equality. Because as more women have a public presence, a public voice in the public sphere, and we see more women in positions of leadership in business, politics, stages, etc., I believe that we will advance more women, but we need women like literally speaking as part of that to get there. And so I'm going to start talking about that on LinkedIn more.
Absolutely. Words are the most powerful medium of transformation. Planting your thoughts out into the world allows other people to then build on that. And now you have a tree or a forest of thoughts.
I love it. Ty, of course, I know that listeners can connect with you on LinkedIn. I will make sure to put a link to your LinkedIn profile in our show notes. And is that the best place? And where else can listeners find you?
Yeah. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. So very happy. Look forward to seeing your journey as well. You can also find me at Tyrona on Twitter and on Instagram as Tyrona Heath.
Fantastic. Well, Ty, thank you so much for coming on the Speaking Your Brand podcast. I so enjoyed talking with you and learning more about LinkedIn.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks again to Ty for coming on the podcast and having such a fantastic conversation about social media and LinkedIn. Be sure to connect with both of us on LinkedIn. Those links are in the show notes, as well as the LinkedIn resources that Ty mentioned. You can get the show notes by going to speakingyourbrand.com/256. So the episode number, speakingyourbrand.com/256. Don't forget to apply to join our Thought Leader Academy. Applications are currently open. You can get all of the details by going to speakingyourbrand.com/academy. Next week, we are finishing this series that we've been doing called The Medium is the Message. We're going to talk about books. What makes the medium of a book unique, and why, as a thought leader, you just might want to consider writing a book yourself. Until next time, thanks for listening.